Hey everybody, Goblin here. Happy holidays. I wanted to take a bit of time to walk you guys through the brand new version of machineGun that just dropped. That's version 5.3.20. Tons of new stuff in that one. That's 10 builds from the last one that everybody had access to. And so here you can see the newest beta of Gunbot. And if you're new to machineGun, let me show you how easy this is to use. You go up to Trade Settings, and then here you're going to want to click Add New Pair. Competition is running Doge. The Christmas competition is running Doge. Why don't we do that? So you just hit Add Pair, and then you will select machineGun as your strategy. And here's our custom settings menu. All you need to do to run machineGun is go to Automatic Management, the first section, and type in how much you'd like to invest. Let's say that you want to spend $5,000. Just type in 5,000. Now that's the total amount of investment. That doesn't mean you're going to spend 5,000 in a buy. That means in completion, it will have $5,000 to work with, to execute the strategy with. And all you need to do is hit Add Pair. That's it. You're done. You can see I'm trading on Coinbase Advanced. You might be trading on Binance, wherever. Then you're going to come up here and hit Save Changes. Now yours will say Start Trading instead of Start Simulator. But if you have Gunbot Ultimate, you can also run a simulator if you like. Now we can go over and press the chart screen and start simulator. Okay, and here you can see it's just loaded in. Here's your chart screen. It's already made a buy, very machineGun. On the right side menu, if you don't see this, it's this little button right over here in the corner. You press this and it will pull out the right side menu and you'll be able to see our custom UI. This explains everything machineGun is doing and what it's thinking and why it's doing things. If you learn how to read the right side menu, you will always know what's going on with your investment. But I want to take a moment and actually stop before we start going through this whole right side menu. And I want to go back to trade settings because we put 5,000 in, right? And you can hit Stop Simulator. And what happens if we were to say go in and put 500 instead of 5,000? Now, this is where a lot of users are getting caught up. I talked to a lot of you personally at this screen, and I wanted to explain why we put this in. So if you were to go to Edit, and then you were to go to the one and done, this is exactly where you put 5,000 in, and you just deleted one of those, and then you hit Update Pair Settings, and then you hit Save Changes, and then you went back to try to run the software. Well, what would happen when you hit Start Simulator or Start Trading? What you would get is this screen. And this would stop the bot from trading, and a lot of users get very concerned at this moment. But essentially, we put this in to let users know up front that they're at a high risk of holding a bag. What does that mean? That means that your entire investment level will get spent in the middle of making moves, and it will no longer be able to manipulate the market, and that you're going to have to hold that bag until the markets come back enough that you can free up funds. As a designer, this is not something I ever want to happen. I'm always trying to get you guys into the infinity run position where you never hold a bag. But some users love trading at high risk, high reward, so they will specifically dial in this type of high risk situation on purpose. But for your normal user, what it means is they don't know what the minimum order size is for their particular combination of exchange and pair, and the investment level they've typed in just naturally leaves them in a high-risk situation, even if they didn't want to be in one. And when we first started launching machineGun, we had a number of users who were accidentally trading at really high risk. And so we put this in to just put a simple stop on things, a little pause, and tell people, hey, read the manual, make sure you know what you're doing, and that if this is something you want to do, then all you need to do is go into the risk management section of your settings and accept the high risk acknowledgement flag. The moment you turn that true and hit Save Changes, machineGun will go right back to acting as it always would. It will resume normal operation at whatever risk level you have. We put this warning in for people that are in anything but the normal to low end risks. So if you're at any high risk of trading and attaining a bag, you'll see this screen. Once again, it's not the end of the world. All you need to do is go in and accept the high risk management, and everything will go right back to trading. So let's go ahead and pull that up. Here's our pair. So you'll go to Edit, and you'll go to One and Done. You'll change this back to 5,000, or whatever you want. Just as long as it's not at a high risk, you won't see that screen. Or if you want to run the 500, we'll just delete that. All you need to do is click Risk Management and click Accept High Risk Acknowledgement, and then hit Update Pair Settings and hit Save Changes. That is all you need to do in order to get machineGun to operate. It's our famous one and done setting. You literally type in how much money you want to spend and it's off to the races. Unless it calculates that you're at a high risk of holding a bag, then it puts up a warning screen and just lets you know that. And then if you accept that, bam, you're right back to the races. There is nothing else stopping you from trading with machineGun at all. We will correct every pair setting. We actually manage over 150 settings in completion, and 100 of those are unique to machineGun. They're settings that help us govern. You can change any setting you want inside this list here, and it will respect them. These are all configurations for machineGun, and you can see you can change them. You can put your mouse over and it will give you an explanation of what that setting does. The only ones you can't change are down here at the very bottom. This one that says Automated Internals, Internal Settings Automatically Managed by machineGun, do not change these. We need these. We control these every 5 seconds. If you change these, they will change right back to what we need them to be. Just as it says, do not change these. Everything else in this list, you are welcome to change, and I encourage you to dig around and see what type of configurations you can come up with. You can always chat us up in the Telegram channel about what you're trying to do. And I posted the exact settings that we were running in the Christmas comp, and I know a bunch of you have wanted to run along with us. And so if you wanted to do that, all you'd have to do is open up the Christmas comp settings that I posted. Here they are right here. This is the exact settings we're running. And then you would go over here and you would hit Code Editor, and you would just highlight this, and you can just delete all this if you want. You know, you can go through and hand change them, but just for speed running sake, we'll just go right here, we'll hit delete, and then we'll pull back up the Christmas settings, and we'll do the same thing. We'll just grab all these settings and we will copy them over into Code Editor. See, I'm just gonna issue a cut there, close this, nope, and then paste them right in. Little space there. That's all you have to do, and now you are running the exact same settings that we're running in the Christmas competition. And so I'll go ahead and go here and hit Save File. That's all you have to do. You're now actually running the exact same settings we are in the competition. So if you want your machineGun to behave just like you see it on the live stream, then this is how you do it. Alright, here you can see we've loaded into the new version of machineGun, 5.3.20, and that's built into the 29.6.3 beta of Gunbot. If you're below that, you won't have access to 5.3.20 machineGun, so update today. Or if you're watching this down the road a bit, no big deal, you already have access to it. What we're looking at here, and what I'm trying to explain to you guys, is the right side pull-out menu. This is going to teach you pretty much everything you need to know about machineGun. It's going to show you what your investment is doing, why your investment is doing something. Everything you need to know about machineGun is right here in this right side menu. Let's start talking about this. So here you can see we're running dollars to Doge, and we're just doing this because that's what the Christmas competition is doing. Now you can see your ROE. This is your return on equity. If you go ahead and read any of these prompts when you mouse over, they'll generally teach you a lot. You know, it can't calculate this because you don't have a bag. You don't have a unit cost because you don't have a bag, and obviously you don't have a bag value. So this teaches you just the very basic values. Then you're going to get down into the machineGun prompt. This is going to be profit, your average profit per day, how many days you've been trading, how many buy orders, and how many sell orders you've made, orders total, the volume you've generated, and then how much you've paid in fees at your exchange. Pretty straightforward. We're going to have a version coming up wherein this little empty spot here will be a rebate calculation, in case you're one of the lucky people that gets a rebate on your trading fees. And then moving down, we have an overview of how machineGun works. The first part is what operational mode you're in. There's 4 modes to machineGun: Moon, DCA, Flipper, and Close Mode Override. The first mode we're in here, Moon, is trying to make partial exits on your bag at statistical peaks. It will ride up, make exits as absolute best it can, and then ride back down, reaccumulate, ride back up, statistical peak, make exits, never fully emptying your hand unless it's a really good run, and continuing to buy in and lower unit costs. And this lets you, if you're on target, if you're chasing that green line on your screen called unit cost, this allows you to print money every single time the markets want to run. Moon mode is where we always want to keep the bot. So if you've got off target in moon mode, meaning the markets have continued to depreciate, the value has dropped, then we enter into dollar cost average mode or DCA mode. This is where we're trying to work the entire position back down so that upon the next run of the markets, you're going to hop over unit cost and we'll be able to exit the entire hand at profit, returning everything, and then we can get back into moon mode and start making really good money again. Next is flipper mode. And flipper is activated when you have worked a bag down. So to get to flipper, essentially you were in moon mode, the markets dropped really hard, you got off track. You tried to dollar cost average down your position. The markets continued to drop. And there becomes a point, and this is configurable yourself, where you say, I'm tired of trying to get out of the overarching position and I want to get back to making money. That's where flipper mode comes in. It takes the rest of your investment level and it makes quick flips. We do a ton of technical analysis on them, but basically it's more machineGun 4.2 era for trading. You're coming in, you're buying down quick, you're exiting quick. It's almost like you took moon mode and you activated moon mode below your original bag. So it knows that the original bag exists. It knows how much it's going to take to work down that bag, but it stops trying to work down that bag, and it just goes back to making decent money until the markets tend to recover enough for it to actually return the entire original position. But in the meantime, there's no reason to stop making money. So that's why flipper mode exists. And then close mode override, that is the mode that if you're in dollar cost average or you're in flipper and the markets have now came back to where you can return your entire hand, get out of the entire position at profit, close mode override governs different settings, different gain requirements to that process. The entire exchanging your hand back and then moving forward is governed by close mode override. And so in each mode, we change most of the feature settings. So protections get tighter, restrictions get put in place, and overall machineGun has a harder time spending your money and wants to spend your money smarter the farther down in the modes you go. So moon mode is pretty happy to spend money and be loose with it because it's printing money. It's riding unit cost, and there's no reason it can't spend large amounts of money to make large amounts of money. But if you get off target, then we start restricting it quite quickly even, so that we're trying to get the greatest pull down on that unit cost per dollar we can. So for every amount we're spending, we're trying, like so much time in this strategy was spent in developing features that lower unit cost. And as we work through the settings, you're going to hear a bunch about that. And because this is supposed to be like a quicker live stream breakdown of how machineGun works, if you want more details, you can always check out the technical manual. It's over 100 pages at this point, and I desperately need to rewrite it again. So a lot more details there. If you hear me say something and you're interested and want to know more, check out the technical manual. It's on our wiki. There's links on the Telegram. There's links in your onboarding email, or just feel free to ask us. We'll always get you a link. Okay, next is capital stage and trading phase. And this concept is something you're definitely going to want to dig into. The short of it is there is 10 capital stages and there are 10 trading phases. We take your investment level and we divide it into 10% sections. Capital stage 1 means that you have between 100% and 90% of your investment level left. Capital stage 2 means you have between 90% and 80% of your investment level back. Now, trading phases are based on the minimum order size we can place at your exchange, meaning if we put a smaller order in, it would be rejected. That is a phase 1 order. That's the minimum volume at your exchange. A phase 10 order will always be 10 times minimum volume. So if the pair you're trading has a $6 minimum, then the phase 10 order will be worth $60. You will rarely hit a phase 10 order. We make them specifically very hard to hit so that you're not just constantly machine gun style spending $60. But that's important to explain to people that you will see these phases changing. That is going to correlate to your trading limit changing. It's not the only thing that defines your trading limit. There is over 30 different options, I think, at this point you can hit for trading limit. I'd have to go through and check our last logic chain. So I don't want to just make it sound like the phase system is the only thing that changes what your trading limit can be. Now, let's talk about interactions between capital stage and trading phase. As you go up in capital stage, you will go down in trading phase. What does that mean? In capital stage 1, you have access to all 10 trading phases, meaning you can spend $60 in a single order. If you go up to capital stage 2, meaning you have already used 10% of your investment, we're going to restrict phase 10 orders. You can no longer hit trading phase 10 orders. If you go down another level, if you go up another capital stage, say you're in capital stage 3 now, we will restrict another trading phase. So now you can no longer hit trading phases 10 or 9. You can only have access to trading phases 1 through 8. This allows us to spend high dollar amounts of money when you have a ton of money, when your investment is completely returned, and you can afford to take some risk. This means in these situations, we can sit there and, high risk spend, high risk reward, make the best money possible in moon mode. But as we get into your bag, we want to be more respectful and we want to be smarter about that money. So we start restricting how much money in total we can spend at any given time. Now that's nice, but that would give you a stair-step style burning of your investment level, and we're a little smarter than that. So this is where it gets kind of complicated. Hear me out on this. We do a form of technical analysis with CMO where we value the market, once again, every 5 seconds as the script runs. And now we value the market depending on what trading phases you have available, which means, let's say you're in capital stage 1, you have all 10 trading phases available to you. We might look at the market and say, we only value the market at like a trading phase of 4. We don't really want to spend $60 on this market right now. It's not worth that to us. Thanks to a core concept in machine gun called continual accumulation, if we want to buy, we want to buy. But we do a ton of analysis on dollar cost averaging, trying to choose when to buy, what to buy, and how to layer buys to pull unit costs down as fast as possible and as much as possible. And so if we look at the market and say, well, this isn't worth $60 to me, this is worth $15 to me. Well, then we'll execute a $15 trade at that point because that's what it's worth to us. Now, on top of that, because that means that at any given time, the market can pull a trading phase as long as through your capital stages, that trading phase is allowed. Now that we can say you can select any trading phase you have access to through the capital stage system, we do another thing to look at the market and value if the market is currently in a state of recovery or not. If the markets are dropping, then we lock out the top 3 trading phases that you still have access to. So if you have access, like I said, say you're in capital stage 3, we've locked out the 2 top trading phases, so you don't have access to trading phase 10 and you don't have access to trading phase 9 anymore. But the markets are dropping. We're going to go ahead and lock out trading phases 8, 7, and 6 as well. That way, any purchasing that we do is restricted to those lower value purchases. Why are we doing that? Well, that's part of layering purchases in order to lower unit cost, because we're saving the big value purchases until the markets have stopped dropping and have just started to recover. Meaning, as the markets are starting to recover at the very bottom of the drop, now you have access to the top 3 phases that you would normally have access to. So in this term, you would get 6, 7, and 8 back when the market started to recover. Well, you're spending a lot more in phases 6, 7, and 8. So that means the drawdown on your overall position is much greater. And so not only do we select trading phase via what your capital stage will allow you to have, we also run CMO analysis on it to give us dynamic trading phase selection, and then we run SMIO analysis on it to give us phase lockout until market recovery. These are some of the tricks, not all of them, I'm trying to be pretty short with it, but this is some of the tricks to understanding trading phase and capital stage. There's a lot going on in these. So you've got moon mode, stage 1, phase 3. Why is it doing that? It's because it does not want to spend much in the market right now. Look, the markets are running up. So why would it spend a ton of money right here? It wants to spend a ton of money right here where the markets are recovering. And on the drop, it's going to restrict how much money it could spend until it's here. And this helps us lower unit costs. Now here, actually, let's just full screen this so you guys can see a little bit more. The next thing is risk scenario. This is the most complex thing that every user has a hard time with. And I have already created a great simplification of this in an upcoming version. I'm trying to remove all esoteric terminology and just make this easier to understand for everybody. And so this system will go through a rewrite here soon. But as you can see, because I've moused over it, it's calculating what the minimum order size is, and then it's going to run your investment level across that minimum order size. So if you have $2,000 as your investment level, and your minimum order size is $1, that means that you can make 2,000 steps. At 2,000 steps, we don't particularly think you're at high risk of getting bagged, and so we don't throw the high risk warning at you. That's pretty normal operation. Anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000, pretty standard. That won't get you a 100% of the time infinity run where you're never holding a bag. But it can get you most of the time. Yeah, like maybe 80-90% of the time, you're still manipulating the markets and not holding a bag. We recommend everybody start with a step amount of 2,500, which is what you see here, custom 2,500. This is what we've set the Christmas competition at, so that people can see kind of like what we recommend. And it's not high risk, it's not low risk, it's just Goldilocks zone right there in the middle. If you were to put that at 250, you would be spreading your entire investment level out across 250 steps instead of running steps defined by minimum. What does that mean? Okay, well, let's say that you put an investment level of 5,000 in like we have here. And then, as we have here, you put in a custom step of 2,500. The exchange minimum here is $1. But because we're asking $5,000 to get spread out across 2,500 steps, the minimum order now becomes $2. And so what does that mean to the trading phase system? Well, 10 times the phase 1 would be $20. And so by running a custom risk like this, you have now brought the stage system from $1 mins, $10 maxes, to $2 mins, $20 maxes. And in this fashion, you can run any amount of risk you want with any investment level you want. By default, what we do is we place you at the safest possible, lowest risk trading we can. Meaning whatever investment level you type in, we run it across the minimum accepted order size, and we give you as many steps as possible. Then, if that's like too passive for you, or the income's not as risky as you want, like you like that high risk, high reward stuff, you're always welcome to come in here and dial up the risk. You can lower your step count. You can use a thing I've developed called automatic aggression. You're always welcome to make this as risky as you want. But while you're learning about machineGun, and while you're reading the 100-plus page manual, and you're listening to this video I'm making right now, while you're getting your feet wet, we don't want you to do anything risky. And so we put you as safe as we can. And then as you've educated yourself, you can come in and dial it up. the points that the community seem to have identified on their own of interest that I want to point out to everybody is the 2,500 steps that we just recommend for people starting out. 5,000 steps seems to be like a community favorite. A ton of people just love running all different ranges of investment level at 5,000 steps. The reason they do this is because it gives them the ability to ride the markets down a pretty dramatic distance while still having investment level left. And so if you see one of those great cryptocurrency drops where the markets are just blood in the streets and you're at 5,000, well, you're having the ability to go down there and buy tons of that up. That is the best deal ever. And so you're going to dramatically lower your overall unit cost during this moment. And then if the markets only come up slightly above your unit cost, but you were able to close out all the positions that were from far, far back, way farther up in the markets, then great. You've just reset a profit, you got all your money back, you made some money, and you're ready to start trading at the new market accepted value. And so 5,000 is a sweet spot people have accepted. And then the whales. The community whales trade at 10,000 steps, like all of them. They've just decided that 10,000, the markets will never depress past 10,000 steps. Even if it did some sort of weird 30% drop because it's cryptocurrency, at 10,000 steps you're going to be able to buy your way out of pretty much any situation. And so the whales, they might have $250,000 on a pair, they might have 100,000 on a pair, whatever they're running, they run 10,000 steps. And so what we've identified here is just basically a doubling. We recommend people 2,500. The community likes 5,000. Community likes 5,000. Whales like 10,000. So that's just kind of points of interaction so that you know up front how people tend to run risk-reward scenario. Moving on, the next one is risk average. If you look at the custom UI, you'll see a risk average line get drawn across your charts. This is the average price going back through the technical analysis period. By default, this is 8 hours long, and so over the last 8 hours, that represents the middle ground of what this is worth, what your asset is actually worth. And so you can kind of think about this like a good deal, bad deal indicator. Continual accumulation says, well, I got to buy something here. I really want to buy. I'm into the market. I'm excited. All the technical analysis is lining up. But the current price is over risk average. Well, I don't really want to buy something that's overpriced. I'm here in the market. I'm trying to buy an asset, but at the given moment, it's overpriced. And so the next thing you'll see is risk tuning. Risk tuning allows you to change trading limit via the risk average system. And so what I do, and this gets restricted by mode, once again, as you move down the modes, it gets more restrictive. But here in mood, it's saying, oh, well, the price is below the statistical average for this asset. Well, I want more. I want to buy more. It's a great deal. Why wouldn't I be buying more right now? And so risk tuning is at 1.5. That is a multiplier. So it meant whatever the trading limit was going to be from trading phase and capital stage, we're going to go ahead and put a 1.5 multiplier on that. Now let's say it was actually over risk average. Well, that would mean that in moon mode, I would change this to 1. You can change this to 0.5 if you want, but I change it to 1 in moon mode, meaning it's overpriced. I don't want to buy more of it. I certainly don't want to buy more of it. But I'm in moon mode. I'm riding unit costs. Things are hot. I'm printing money. The markets are coming back. Like, there's no reason for me to just not buy it, but I'm only buying a normal amount of it. I'm not hot on it. And so when you're undervalued, you're going to buy more. So let's go down to DCA mode, right? DCA wants 1.25 more. And then if it goes above market value on that item, not a good deal, it actually doesn't even want to spend the original amount it was going to spend anymore. It wants like 0.75. And so you can change the live evaluation of the market just based on the average price of the asset. And this is risk average and risk tuning. You can do some really neat things like with this. So, I mean, you could even just turn off buys when they're above the statistical average. So if you're just not interested in buying if it's overpriced, great, you can control that now. If you want to spend a ton more money when it's underpriced and it's a good deal, great, you can do that too. I really like this system, and I've seen some people do some neat things with it. So moving on is your trading limit. As we've been discussing, there's so many different ways to modify trading limit, but this just represents the amount of money you're going to spend on the next buy. What it's thinking. If it was to buy right now, that is the amount of money it would spend on the order. Skimming, a brand new feature just put in this version. I am so happy to finally get to share this with you guys. This is a major profit enhancer. I was just talking to some people in the Telegram channel about this before I started recording. What skimming does is it goes back through market history. It looks at the total amount of distance the markets have traveled measured as percentages. And if it's within a certain range, X, that you can configure yourself, default is 3%, then it turns on skimmer. What skimmer does is it allows exits to be made when you cross unit cost. This will mean that your bottom positions, stuff that is within the profit tolerance you're looking for, it's matching gain, can be sold out, and it will push unit cost up. This means that when the markets are tight and they're not moving much, you can buy through micro oscillations and then get unit cost down. The market's right up a little bit. Your entire position is not in profit here. You cannot close this position. But what you can do is look at all the parts of the position below unit cost that are in good profit, and you can exit those, skimming profit off. And then it will up unit cost right beyond what the market is at, and you go back into micro oscillation purchasing, buying in the little dips. They're not very big dips, but buying in the little dips and working unit costs down again until during the next run it can once again exit out its bottom positions. This allows you to profit during really tight markets where traditional trading would not yield you the returns. This allows you to get in there and still make money. Now, the moment the markets start to return and it runs greater than X, like I said, default 3%, skimming will turn off. What does this mean? This means exits can no longer be made when they're just crossing unit cost, and that the ROE on the entire position will need to be fulfilled for the gain value before it will be allowed to exit. What does this mean again? This means that you will not chase unit cost upwards, because instead of exiting the bottom of your position when you cross unit cost, you're now crossing unit cost, letting the markets run appropriately, and then beginning your exits, which means every position at that point across the board is in profit and allows you to exit the entire position at the statistical peaks that you're seeing it run to. This setting, skimmer, or skimming, some people would even use the term scalping, funny nomenclature differences, works directly if you scroll down with the partial protection system. See how it says ROE is less than the gain? That is because we are not skimming. If we had skim on, this partial protection system would be completely disabled and not in use, because it does not need to consider the gain above unit cost. It's just trying to skim sales at unit cost. I've been really happy with the performance of skimming over the last couple of months as I've ran an extended technical analysis on it, just making sure how it was going to work in the software. This greatly enhances profits. It allows you to ride tight markets, and then when markets start coming back, you're good again. Moving on is climb, and what this does is, once again, most of the technical analysis we do is based off of 8 hours, but this looks back through market history again. It runs an average, so in this case you'll be able to use the risk average line on the closes of every single candle. And from that point, it says, do I have a percentage run going on above average? If you do, then activate climb. What's climb do? Climb adds more gains to the internal calculations for what you're looking for per trade. So if it can detect that the markets are running upwards, why would it sell out at a lower value? This is something you can do some super neat things with, but you have to be careful to not overly ask. What do I mean? If you change it to where it's like, hey, there's a climb going on, I want 5% gains. Well, you're not going to get 5% gains on a standard run. And so when climb kicks on, you're never going to exit your position, and you're going to be mad that machineGun just sits there and doesn't sell in the middle of a run. What we do with it is we ask for 1/4% more. That's it. You can ask for more if you like. It's just meant to achieve slightly more profit. So let's think about that. Moon mode is going to ask for around 0.5% gains before it's satisfied and wants to start making partial exits. So it detects it's in a climb. Now it wants 0.75 gains instead of 0.5. Well, that's a 50% increase. You can see how a very small number is actually a huge increase from how it works standardly. Okay, let's take another mode for example, close mode override. If the markets are not running, it's looking for 0.75 gains. But if the markets are running, it wants to throw that 0.25 on top. Now it's looking for full percent gains. This is a great way to sneak extra profit out of just knowing that the markets are running on top of all the other technical analysis. It's a simple feature, but it does bring greater money in. Next are the artillery systems, which I'm currently reworking. They use different mathematics to look for the absolute bottom of a market drop, the dip, and then they are multipliers once again to trading limit. And so the first two, short artillery, long artillery, these are different ways we use the MACD system to hunt dips. Short artillery is going to be dips like here on the maps. They're going to be not the biggest dips over prolonged market periods. They're going to be short-term periods that we know that we're buying the short-term dip, and so we want to buy just a little bit more of trading limit. This is just like risk tuning, just if we're detecting a short-term dip. Depending on what market you trade, you may never see these turn on. They can be very rare. So like in Bitcoin, say you're trading dollars to Bitcoin, these will hardly hit. You might see these hit once a week. But then if you're trading some altcoin, I don't know, pick an altcoin, you might see these things trigger multiple times a day. I'm working on better detection and automatic detection to dial these in per market. At the moment, whether you see them active or not, like I said, highly depending on market. These are MACD calculations. The long artillery is going to look over more prolonged periods of market data, and it's not going to fire unless you're at a long-term dip. That's why they're named short and long artillery. In an upcoming version, I'm going to change them to just what the technical analysis is. And so this one would be, like histogram artillery. This one would be MACD artillery. And then we get to bull artillery. Bull artillery is a very complex system that actually overrides buy and sell logic chains because it detects a bull run's about ready to happen. I have greatly simplified the bull artillery system in an upcoming ticket to where it will reflect the short and long artillery systems, meaning that when it detects a bull run, all it will do is change the trading limit for the continuation of the bull run instead of trying to change buy and sell logic. At the moment, it still does that. When it detects a bull run, it won't let an exit be made because why would you sell during a bull run? But simplifying it and getting it to be a more meaningful feature that's active more often is coming up in an upcoming ticket. So these you might not see light up much, but all they do is apply a multiplier, a trading limit, when they use different mathematical algorithms to detect either dips or runs. The next section is core overrides. Because we are a autoconfig file that runs on top of a pre-existing strategy called stepGridHybrid, we govern that strategy. Every 5 seconds, we're trying to tell that strategy what to do. The primary 3 settings of stepGridHybrid that we are controlling are buy enabled, when you can accumulate, sell enabled, when you can exit, and forever bags. Forever bags is a really interesting feature, and essentially it stops caring about specific gain values and starts hunting statistical exit peaks in the markets. So it will run until the markets start changing direction, and then it will allow an exit to be made. This is super cool. We manipulate this all the time for various features in multiple ways. And so if you're trying to figure out what your bot is doing, you can come down here, you can see what mode it's in, you can see how much money you have left, you can see how it's been performing, but you can just check here. Is buy enabled lit up? All right, you're going to be buying. Is sell enabled lit up? Well, you're going to be making exits. Is forever bags lit up? That's just mainly to teach people some of the cool manipulation we do, but it's a core feature of stepGridHybrid that we manipulate, so you see it in core overrides. Right below those are the systems that we need, all the conditions, to control the core overrides. So you have buy conditions. Every single one of these buy conditions must be green for buy enabled to work. If you've got something like this where it says it's blocking buy orders, it's blocking buy orders, it's blocking buy orders, that is going to turn buy enabled off. You need unification. All technical analysis needs to match before anything is enabled in core overrides. There is a system, none of it's enabled right now while recording, where these can turn orange. Green means you're good to go. The technical analysis says all good. The line, the red circled line, universal for nope, that's a stop, not good. If it changes orange, that means that a form of technical analysis we do called anti-lag has kicked in. What's anti-lag? Anti-lag is a protection mechanism for protections. What it does is it says, hey, I understand your technical analysis you do is important, but for XYZ reasons, it's invalidated or ill-validated, and we no longer want to consider it. And so when it turns orange, that means we really don't care what that one thinks. We're just going to give the thumbs up on that one. When would this happen? Okay, let's give you guys a good user case of this. Unit cost. See this unit cost right here? It says it's not active because we don't have a bag, because this entire time the markets haven't been favorable to buy since I started recording. But if this thing turns on and gives you a orange light, that means that the markets have came up, you're over unit cost, but you didn't go far enough over unit cost to make exits. And then the market settled down and accepted a price that is over your overarching unit cost, but not enough to exit, and you're stuck in limbo. Well, that's not good for profits. And so what we do is we just turn off unit cost protection, and we say, hey, let's get back to buying. That's going to do two things. That means you're going to extend your position while the markets are running up, which great, you're going to make more money. Or it means that it's going to buy its way to where unit cost is right below it, right above it again, and it can just get back to normal operation. There's no reason to get stuck in a limbo where you can't buy or sell because the math didn't work. And so anti-lag systems are all throughout machineGun, and they will just turn off or on technical analysis based on if it's holding up the productivity of the overall bot. So if the algorithm's trying to do something and there's just one variable that's stuck off in space, that's okay. We don't need that variable all the time. Now, how do we reset these? When we see normal market behavior return for this technical analysis for these indicators, we'll turn off the anti-lag, because now it's going back to providing us a very useful form of information. It's being a good form of technical analysis. So you will see these things change between green, red, and orange. Green is good. Orange is we're reconsidering what this thing is saying in the first place because it's holding us up. And red is no-go. So once all these things match, buy will turn on. Let's scroll down. Once all these sell conditions match, sells will turn on. And various amounts of this and this will turn forever bags on and off depending on your situation. Let's go ahead and take an example of this. What's a situation that turns forever bags off? Okay, close mode override. Here we're trying to return your entire investment, bring the whole hand back, make a good buck on it. We're not really trying to exit out at partials at statistical peaks. We want to make sure we're making good solid money, and because of the situation of being off target on moon, we don't want forever bags on. So we're going to turn off forever bags in close mode override. Okay, what's another example? Let's say that you have tiny amounts of quote left because you have been in moon mode, selling partials, and things have been great for a couple days. What will happen is every time you get close to completely finishing your hand, it won't do it because it's having a hard time calculating the remaining value and positions on all this quote that's basically ghost quote. What does ghost quote mean? Ghost quote means that through partials, you have quote that's been completely paid for, and you've made all the profit on that quote, and so it's just extra quote. You have free quote. That'd be kind of nice to bring that back home, right? Like you want to bring home all the money. You don't want to just start building ghost quote, because if you build ghost quote for like 6 months of runtime, you can definitely get in some order book issues. So what we do is there's a thing called partial protection, and you can control this in the settings. And this looks for a minimum amount, it's a multiplier, a minimum amount of distance from minimum volume, and if it's within that range, then we'll go ahead and close the entire position out. Well, we need to turn off forever bags for this, because we're not trying to be forever bagged in this situation. We'd quite like to bring back all the money. And so this is another moment where we will manipulate the forever bag system. And so we do this countless times across many features, and you'll be able to just see when we're up to something, and you'll be able to better understand thanks to this video, why forever bags might be turned on or off. Now let's talk about some of this technical analysis. KBO, all of this stuff you can look up on Investopedia and Google, so if you're really interested in what any of this is, just type it in, and you will find the people who created this mathematics and what this mathematics does and why it's used. But in short, these are just different forms of technical analysis. This buy conditions chain, you may only see this many lights on the screen, but there is over 30 conditions that we check inside machineGun before buy enabled happens. Like position size, what does this do? This just makes sure that your overarching position plus the next trading limit from cash protection is not going to exceed your investment level. And this is, once again, something so that if you have 10 pairs running and they all want $5,000 each, one market dives real hard, that market will not be able to spend more than $5,000 so that it can't ruin the amount of money you've put aside for other markets. So like cash and position size, these aren't things that you're going to find extensive writings in the technical manual about because they're very simple. Risk acknowledgement, once again, this is from earlier, where if you're running at high risk, we're not going to let you spend any money until you acknowledge you're running at high risk. MACD, I think everybody's heard of, CMO, these are common forms of technical analysis. And then you get to things like waterfall. What's a waterfall? A waterfall is when the markets are dropping, like quickly. It's on-the-spot drop detection is basically what waterfalling is. And so we don't want to spend money if the markets are dropping really hard. We also don't want to exit a position if the markets are dropping really hard because, wow, we just exiting on the drop's never hot. And so flood is the exact opposite of a waterfall. Flood is when water's coming back up, the markets are coming back up. And so if the markets are running upwards, we don't want to buy and we don't want to sell because the markets are still running. So between these two, what we have is on-the-spot drop detection, and we have on-the-spot run detection. So right now it says no flood detected. Well, the markets aren't running right now. It says waterfall, no waterfall detected. The markets aren't dropping quickly right now. And then it says no river detected. What's a river? A river looks back through the history of the markets and then draws technical analysis based on the current position, current value. If you are slowly trending downwards, then once again configurable by mode by X amount, then it will stop accumulation when it detects that you're just slowly trending downwards. There's no reason to just be machineGun style buying constantly if all the markets are doing is like a weak bear trend where they're just slowly coming on down. Okay, so we detect that and we say, hold up, until the markets have stopped dropping, just casually walking downhill, until we've hit the new bottom, the new accepted value, we're not going to spend money. And this is great because if you were to buy on the entire slow walk down, then you would keep making your unit cost impossible to move because you keep throwing more and more money at the situation. And so you want to stop accumulating while the markets are dropping, wait for them to find the new accepted value where it's just, maybe it's just going to travel right, heck, maybe it'll even go up again, but at least it's not just slowly traveling down. Then you're going to start spending your money, because whatever distance the market traveled down during the little bear cycle there, that's really good for us. That's deep discounts that we're going to be able to start buying, and then that's going to dramatically lower unit costs. So once again, we're chasing unit costs. This is a way that we save accumulation so that we can spend it smarter later on. Well, Freefall is like the quick version of that. Instead of it being a casual walk down a hill in bear market, Freefall is, cryptocurrencies have come to know this one. That's when the market just drops, just the bottom falls out, blood in the streets, everything's immediately dropping. So this technical analysis looks at the last couple hours instead of the whole day, and then it immediately compares the current price. If you have dropped past its configurable setting, X, which I think in moon mode is 5%, DCA mode 3%, flipper mode 1.5%, then it's not only going to halt accumulation, it's going to make sure that you have literally gone through an entire cycle of technical analysis where the markets are not dropping before it will allow accumulation again. This is generally 2 to 4 hours depending on how you have the bot set up. So it will say, hey, the markets just dropped out of nowhere and I'm frightened. They fell like 25%. Okay, that's common occurrence in cryptocurrency. Well, it's going to detect that at 5, 3, or 1.5%, halt up accumulation, and be like, no, I'm not going to spend money until this volatility is a little bit better explained. And so 2 to 4 hours later, if the markets have stabilized anywhere, it might light back up your accumulation and be like, cool, whatever just happened in the markets, it appears to be over, and the distance between unit cost and the new accepted value of the coin is so great, I'm going to get the best deal of my life and start heavily accumulating again here in this situation. But during the drop, and for the hours post the drop, it was in safety protection, saying, I don't want to spend your money right now because I'm terrified that the markets are going to continue to drop. Between Waterfall, Flood, River, and Freefall, this is great technical analysis. This is on-the-spot detection. This is slow detection. This is market panic detection. Unit cost, as soon as you actually have a buy here, this has been the most boring screen to record for you guys while I talk. Unit cost will not let you buy above unit cost unless it's inside anti-lag. And that's great because the markets are generally running up and you're trying to make exits if you're above unit cost, not sit there and buy above unit cost, therefore dragging unit cost up. Very specific reasoning with anti-lag there for that particular behavior. Cooldowns, you can see I have turned this off here in the Christmas settings because we're running REST instead of WebSockets, and that's plenty of time for the markets to change. And so cooldown basically says if you're running WebSockets, which we'll get there shortly, it's ticketed, I don't want you to buy every microsecond. I don't want you to be like buy every second. And so cooldown says, hey, I want to put 5 seconds in between my purchases, or I want to put 10 seconds between my purchases. We actually change this variable based on what risk level you're running. So if you have a very small amount of investment level, you can't make 10,000 buys. And so instead of encouraging the bot to buy every second, we put a 10-second stop in. And so that you will machine gun style buy, wait 10 seconds, buy, wait 10 seconds, buy, instead of just buy. This is a safety protection for wallet size. And if you've got the wallet to go the distance, just turn it off. I mean, it won't work that way in WebSockets. You will need like a setting of 1 or 3 at least when WebSockets works. But for REST, because it takes so long to talk to the exchange, get data back from the exchange. We're not talking your latency to the exchange. We're talking about the processing time on the information you requested from the exchange, generally between 5 and 10 seconds. You don't need this. But it's only because we're currently in REST with WebSockets turned off. This is the buy below system. I have completely redone this. This is the longest ticket in machine gun history. I've gone on long-winded ones about this. I'm not going to go over this because this is about ready to change in an upcoming version. You can see it's off by default. We have then once again just standard technical analysis we've already explained. Sell conditions, same exact way. You can see unit cost, waterfall, flood, bull artillery, partial gain, cool down, and normal technical analysis. The partial gain system I was talking about above, that works with the skim system. And what this is saying is, just because you crossed unit cost does not mean you can make an exit. The partial gain says that you need to match the gain set per operational mode at a minimum before making an exit. This means that you don't just hit unit cost, exit out the bottom of your position, send unit cost way above where you're at, and have quote that is now in an unattainable zone that the market run did not cover. Because if you don't have this governing that, you will continually chase quote up and you will continually chase unit cost up to where you will never be able to exit your entire hand. This is super important for the partial system, and then eventually working it down to where you bring the entire hand back home via turning off forever bags and other tricks to where you don't obtain ghost quote. So this partial gain is brand new. It's a brand new setting along with skim mode. These two make great profits. They really enhance what machineGun does. And so these are two new ones that I hope you guys enjoy. I put a lot of thought into them. Moving on down, you have the indicators section. This serves no purpose for 99% of the people that run machineGun. This is just for a bunch of nerds out there like us that want to see what these indicators that we're doing up here are currently at. And so if you're like, well, I want to know why I'm not in the bull artillery, right? Well, the current RSI value is 47.55, and you can go into the machineGun settings and literally change what is required of the RSI system before you're going to get a bull artillery. And so this is just where the indicator math comes from for people who are looking to nerd out. And then this stuff down here is just leftover gibberish that gets generated by stepGridHybrid. I don't think I can get rid of it. It just kind of see how it goes away sometimes, and then sometimes it just shows back up. I don't know what to do with that. So you'll see a little bit of gibberish down there at the bottom. This has been a walkthrough of the right side pull-out menu. I understand this has been a long-winded walkthrough with no excitement on the charts whatsoever. You're basically just listening to me talk. Apologies for it not being more exciting, but that should teach you how to read machineGun and know what machineGun is doing. Now let's move on to the trade settings screen. We'll change it up for you a little bit. Let's go edit. Look at this. This is our huge trade settings option. I know it's so much. You do not need to interact with almost any of this. Although I'm going to run through this thing and explain a bunch of cool settings and things you will interact with. Okay, as you've previously seen, automatic management is where you do the one and done setup. It also has a setting called update version. What does this do? If it's been a while since you've updated your machineGun and all these settings are in the old version, all you have to do is flip this setting and then save your settings. When you start trading again on the first cycle, it will take all of your non-mission critical settings, meaning stuff that you didn't specifically set that's really important, like investment level, and it will update them to the standard defaults in the new version. So anytime it's been a while, or if just every time you upgrade, if you think something's changed, you've seen it in the change log, you can come in here, click this, hit update pair savings, start your save and start your trading, and you'll be in the newest version. Moving down, this is general management. Now, what's going on here? This is stop after next sell. So let's say you've been trading a market for a while and you would like to exit that market and no longer trade it. You have the option of immediately just stopping the bot, selling your position and being done with it, or if you would like to wait until the bot completely closes out the position at profit but does not start a new position, well, you can come in here and turn on stop after next sell. This will just wait, and then as you've emptied your hand, boom, turn off the pair and you've properly exited at a profit. Ignore trades before. This is for if you're resetting the bot or setting up in a market you've previously traded. You can come in here and set an exact timestamp to where it will ignore all trades that's happened before that time period. Keep quote gives you the ability to say, hey, I invested into a coin and I like holding that coin, but I also want to trade that coin. And so let's say you're trading Bitcoin and you're like, I want to keep 2 Bitcoins on hand at all time that I never trade. You just put that in at 2. And the bot will completely ignore everything below 2 Bitcoin. Like, that is yours, it won't touch it. But everything over 2 Bitcoin, it will spend. Click that again. A lot of the bot is configured by minimum maximum stage, so you can see buy cooldown minimum stage, it's set at 11 because this is the Christmas comp settings. Well, there's only 10 stages if you remember, and so by setting it at 11, you'll never hit stage 11. 11 doesn't exist, therefore it's turned off. And this is how we control a lot of features inside machineGun. Very simple stage system. And so you can see the buy cooldown would have been at 1 second. The sell cooldown minimum stage to turn on is 1. Sell cooldown 5, and then minimum partial balance. What's this? This is what I was talking about with avoiding ghost quote. This is the amount it's going to look for before it turns off forever bags and a couple other things and brings the entire amount back home instead of trying to calculate values on quote that it just can't calculate values on it. And so instead of just holding it forever, or instead of getting like a .00001 return on it someday, we just if it's below this amount, we just exit it at profit. We use the RO gain system to make sure these are at profit instead of just using the internal gain calculations. And so if you're wanting to not hold as much, you can change this. I have worked at 3.5, 5.5, 10.5. 5.5 is the sweet spot. I don't think you ever need to change this, but that's what that does. And then disable skim during partial protection, exactly what it sounds like. When partial protection is happening, you want to use RO gain, and you don't want to use skimming. This is why it's turned on. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Next is risk management. Okay, this is the most underused setting that I thought people would love, and then nobody uses it. But this is automatic aggression. What automatic aggression means, and you can see its default is 100. You cannot set it below 100 because automatic aggression is based on minimum size order that we can place at your exchange. Once again, if we sent a smaller order, it would get rejected. So 100% aggression is the minimum order size. So if you were to put it at 90% aggression, you would not be able to make an order. But let's say you put it at 200% aggression. Now, instead of having, like, example, a $1 min, you're going to have a $2 minimum. So once again, with if your $1 minimum trading phase was worth $10, you put it at 200, your max trading phase would now be worth $20. You can put that at anything. You can put that at 1,000 until it literally breaks the capital stage in trading phase system. You are welcome to increase the aggression of the bot unlimitedly. And if you get to the point where it's breaking the system, we will literally tell you you broke the system and that we corrected it for you. That's what happens if you try to put it at like 20%. It will tell you you can't run 20% and that we're going to run 100% for you. We try to make this thing unbreakable. Keyword is try, because sometimes users find some interesting ways. Next is the custom risk setting. This is at 0 by default. If it's at 0, it will automatically calculate out your risk and put you in the lowest risk possible. That's great once you understand better what you're doing, or if you're trying to stretch a certain amount of money across a certain amount of steps, you can come in here and use the custom risk setting. These two settings, the automatic aggression and the custom risk setting, are or options. These are not ands. You cannot have this and this. If you set an automatic aggression, it will get overwritten by a custom risk setting. So if you're going to do this one, you can't do this one. Here's your accept high risk acknowledgement. We've covered that quite extensively in this video. Here's your high risk buy cooldowns and sell cooldowns. So if you are inside a high risk, we use separate cooldowns just for the high risk factor. If you want to change these, they work the exact same as the previous settings. Just how much time are we going to disable after an order has been placed. Moving on, individual mode settings and transition timings. This is how you can turn on any given mode and the gains required in each mode. Example, DCA minimum stage 6. This means that the dollar cost average mode will not turn on until you're 50% through your investment level. Flipper stage 11, it's turned off. Closed mode minimum stage needs to match DCA stage. Generally, some people have come up with some very creative ways to use this, so that while you're trying to dollar cost average down a position, you'll also turn on closed mode to bring back home your entire hand at once. closed mode minimum distance. How far from unit cost do you need to be before triggering closed mode override? Closed mode based on unit cost. If you turn this off, it will go old school and calculate with break-even target instead of unit cost. MachineGun version 5 is 100% based on unit cost. We do not use break-even target ever, although some people don't like seeing the fuck-up trades when a closed mode happens. And so if you turn on break-even target, it represents bringing the entire position back home instead of breaking down each position by unit cost, meaning that like you would see positions that you sacrificed that were out of position and therefore registered as a fuck-up trade, registered as a tax break is how I think some people look at that. But if you happen to not want to ever see losses on closed modes, you can turn on break even. That doesn't mean you make any better money. The positions were still closed the exact same. It just changes how that data is displayed in Gunbot. Closed mode forever bags. This is turned off. We were previously talking about why you don't want forever bags in closed mode. Do not turn that back on. You've got disable skim during closed mode. This is another one where some people might prefer to turn this off, but you make better money if you're never attempting to skim while you're attempting to bring back a huge amount of money. So if you're trying to bring back thousands of dollars and it's your entire hand because you're off target on moon mode, so you're not chasing unit cost anymore and the markets are depressed. When the markets come back up, you do not want to sell your entire hand for 0.01% above unit cost. Like, why would you do that? And so, unless the markets are notoriously tight and you always operate in a skim mode because whatever you're trading never fluctuates in price, you're probably going to want to disable skim mode during close mode so that you can use the full ROA gain feature. Next is the moon gain, DCA gain, flipper gain, close gain. These are the amount of money, it's a percentage-wise, we are asking in profit during each of these modes. This is an internal calculation done by stepGridHybrid. This is not our secondary ROE gain protection, but this is the information that stepGridHybrid would use to say, hey, all the orders in this mode need to at least meet this gain before we're ever going to consider exiting them. So you can change how much money you're looking to bring back in by changing the gains. Let's move on. Tuning management. We went through this at the beginning. This is the good deal, bad deal indicator. So you can see that if you're above average or if you're below average. So here we'll buy just what we were originally thinking about. It's a multiplier times 1, same amount. But below average, hey, I want more of that. I'm going to buy 1.5 times that amount. And then you can go through every single mode and change the above, below on the good deal, bad deal. You can change how many candles back we do this technical analysis, and you can choose how many candles are involved in this technical analysis. Because we're on a 5-minute period, this would be 8 hours, and this would be an hour. So you've got 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hours, 8 hours. All of the average, all of the period ones will be drop downs for you guys to easily select. Moving on, this is the bull system. Here's the order multiplier. Risk protection says that if the market is above risk average, meaning it's a bad deal, I don't want to trigger this order multiplier. We've got it turned off because this is a bull artillery, meaning the markets are going to be running upwards anyways. You can see the minimum stage it's turned on. You can see the maximum stage when it's turned off. You can see the detection system. This is signal for RSI, and then you can actually see the individual RSI settings if you want to change those. Next is the short and long-term artillery systems. This is the same exact thing you see in the bull. You can see we have risk protection turned on because this is supposed to hit dips, and if the price is above the average, it's a bad deal, then there's no way I want to be trying to spend dip money up there, and so risk protection is turned on. Here's the multiplier, same exact turning on and off from capital stage. You can see the detection system this time is a histogram, and then the period is 96, that's your 8 hours. This is the requirement. This is the multiplier for how far the markets must drop below the average to be determined a dip. And so if you change this thing to a low number, holy cow, it'll fire dips all the time. It just thinks that it's always a dip. This is a number I have backtested in TradingView over and over and over in many markets to arrive at 16. Same with the next number, it's going to be 18. I pick these numbers for very specific reasons, though if you want to play around with them, you're always welcome to. Here we go again with the offset, how many candles back before this period, this technical analysis period starts. Most exchanges return 100 candles minimum. That's what we base this off of. There's a couple that return slightly less, very annoying. But if you had 96 plus the 3, you have 99 candles. Sometimes exchanges will not return the last candle, giving you 99 instead of 100, and this all works out. Once again, here's your MACD values if you wanted to change how it's calculated. Same exact thing with long, but the requirement's 18. And we're using MACD instead of histogram for that calculation. Sniper management. This is so nice. I love this setting. What this does is this looks backwards at the market distance, and it says, hey, has there been a distance run above sensitivity, set at 1%? If it has, then we turn off a bunch of extra technical analysis that no longer matters because you're in the middle of a really sweet wick run in the cryptocurrency world. When you see those wicks just pop off and run forever and you don't make an exit on them because all the technical analysis didn't expect that huge run out of nowhere, like when a whale buys in and such. What this allows it to do is say, hey, I'm detecting a whale is buying in, or I'm detecting a crazy run in a cryptocurrency market. I want those sells to happen. And so this turns off all the slow technical analysis and then just allows you to hit the exits on these crazy runs. I love this feature. If you're trading altcoins that do those 40% wicks out of nowhere, this is the feature that allows you to actually hit those and make exits on the wick. It's super cool. It works great in rest because we check every 5 seconds. But when we get WebSockets, the accuracy of this thing should be insane. This is a good profit enhancer right here. And it really allows you to make those quote-unquote magical cryptocurrency moments happen. Moving on, we have flood management. We already talked about this. These settings are going to be, the next few settings are all going to be very similar. This is the distance back we're measuring against, 2 candles. This is the sensitivity on the run to trigger it, 0.25. And this is when we found stability in the markets again, 1%. So if you go into SMIIO and look at the histogram on that, you can start to see the little bars change if we're running or if we're stabilizing. We do a lot of SMIO work between the histogram, the signal, and the actual SMIO line or SMI signal line for these features. And so here you control when the markets are coming back. Here you control when the markets are taking off. Here you control how far back you're looking. Same exact thing here. Waterfall, but you can see it's drop sensitivity and recovery sensitivity, and they're different because these are different protections, although they're very similar. Here's your river management, your short-term bear market detection. Once again, this is the period back that we're looking, and this is the distance the markets need to drop over this average price for us to detect that markets are slowly in a bear cycle and not coming back, so therefore we should not be spending a ton of money in them. And then climb protection, this is short-term bull market detection. This works the exact same way, but in reverse, and so you can still see it's based off the 8-hour period, 3 candle offset. Climb distance is set at 1, meaning you need a 1% gain across the markets compared to the average for it to change the gains in any given mode. And so once again with the 0.25 enhancement, this went from 0.5 to 0.75. So if you want to change how much you're asking the bot to make in the middle of a run, you can do it here. If you're trying to figure out or change how much the bot asks in general, not in a run, just across the board, then you can go back up to mode management right here, and you can change these gains. But you can also use climb gains. Then right below that, we have the Freefall, the market crash detection. Whoa, clicking around. This is based on 2 hours here. If you want it based on 4 hours, you can just click here and pick 4 hours. Heck, you can make it based off 8 hours. 2 hours is great drop detection for figuring out when markets are just freaking out. Though if you want to go with the 4 hours, you're more than welcome to. Offset of 1 this time. We don't need the 3. It's not as extreme. The requirements before the drop, and then the actual distances. The freefall requirement. What does this do? This detects how many candles need to be dropped by the distance before we freak out and activate this protection. So the reason it's at 1 is if the markets fall, we give it 1 candle before we give it 1 candle at these distances before we activate this protection. This also means that before you can get out of this protection, you need to have a free fall requirement of 0. So it means that you cannot be this distance down in the market for 2 hours before it will enable buys again. This is really smart if you're in markets that are prone to just dropping 40% or something out of nowhere. You're going to want the 2-hour downtime while you let things stabilize. Though let's say you don't like being down for 2 hours after a huge market crash. Well, you could either just turn it off, or you could change this to a single hour, meaning that 1 candle out of 12 would have to be valid in this condition for it to turn on. I keep it at 1 because I want instantaneous drop management. I want it detected as soon as the markets are crashing, so I run 1 candle. Let's move on from there. You have unit cost protection management. Unit cost has a lot to do with this bot, and so you see a ton of settings. Essentially, to go through them, buy protection distance is 0. This means that unit cost, the actual line, the green line on your chart is called unit cost. It has to be at, above, or below that. Same thing with sell protection distance. So what would you do here if I mouse over? Sets minimum distance from unit cost required before exits can be activated. So if you put this at 0.25, it actually has to run 0.25 over unit cost before your unit cost sell protection will turn in. Now that just sounds like another gain feature, doesn't it? It can be used that way. So if you wanted 3 separate gains inside machineGun, you would have the built-in stepGridHybrid gain, you would have our custom ROE gain, and then you could even set another gain here with unit cost sell protection distance. We keep it at 0 because we just want to respect unit cost, not travel extra distance beyond unit cost. But if you wanted to do that, you could do that. You can see here in the Christmas Cup settings, we have it on all the way to stage 10 for both buys and sells. You would turn it off if you had flipper mode enabled, because think this through. Flipper mode requires you to make transactions below unit cost. And so we turn off unit cost protection so that flipper mode can work. But because we have flipper mode disabled in the current Christmas bot, we can run these protections all the way out to 10. Unit cost anti-lag, once again, how long do we look before we invalidate and throw out the previous technical analysis? 4 hours. We have a 1 candle offset on that. We have a unit cost anti-lag requirement of 100%, meaning that we have to be inside this anti-lag period completely with never having the markets recover and fix this technical analysis before we'll throw it out the window. If you did 50%, that would mean that it could spend half of its time above unit cost, and then we would throw it out with anti-lag. You want to keep this at 100%, and if you're trying to change the amount of time required before an anti-lag kicks in, you want to change unit cost anti-lag protection. You do not want to change unit cost anti-lag requirement, although you can do some real neat feats by changing the requirement. Most of the time, though, it's not going to help you make more money. It's more just designed and left in there for people who are doing very specific setups on how they want to trade. Here's the only buy below last buy and only buy below last sell. They're turned off because I have completely reworked this ticket. Longest ticket in machineGun history, so I don't go over this, and it's turned off because it's shortly getting replaced. And then you have the partial gain protection system, max stage. We wanted to run through all of them. Custom partial gain, what does this do? Okay, so instead of our custom ROE gain system looking back at each individual mode and wanting to know what the gain is required for each individual mode before allowing a partial, you can just set this. So let's say 0.25 for whatever reason. You just want to always get 0.25 before allowing a partial gain. Well, you can just put in 0.25 and it'll do that. I don't really recommend it, but we put it in there for people who are trading in extremely tight markets and know about where they're going to max out instead of our custom settings. They can come in here and just use this too. Partial gain skimming, right here, disables partial gain protection, allows for exits to be made at unit cost with orders that are already above. So you already know what this is. That's skim mode. Here's the distance required back and the measurement period, once again, right below 100. If you want to do a different technical analysis on that, you can pick 2 hours. Highly recommend you keep it at 8. And then the offset period. So the distance is how much the market has to travel before gain is enabled, or well, skimming is enabled, excuse me. 3%, pretty good. If you're in an extremely tight market, you can lower that. If you'd rather not skim at all, except for the most tight of tight markets, you can lower that to like 2, or you can just turn it off altogether. Although it makes more money than not having it, I highly recommend you keep this feature on. Moving on again. Here in Oscillator Management, this is a pretty boring section. We're going to speed run this one a little bit. These are basic technical analysis tools. SMIIO is a predictive indicator. It's actually a -2 system, so it's 2 candles ahead of the markets at any given time. Really cool mathematics there. Here we use it for the phase protection. Remember when I was saying that we lock out the top 3 phases until the market's in a position of recovery? This is where you can turn that on and off. This will actually run the same exact recovery protection, but for bulls, and we don't need that. We built it in, but it never hits correctly. You make far better money just to leave this one off, but we leave it in case people just want to run that type of technical analysis on bulls. Same thing with waterfall and flood protection. Now, what is this doing? This is what allows us to have either the sensitivity on the run and then the recovery, or if you're, let's just go back up here and look at it. See how you have run sensitivity and stabilization, and then in the one below it you have drop sensitivity and recovery sensitivity. That is actually done through the SMIO system again, once again with the predictive indicators, so we can tell when we're in a market recovery or not. So you can turn those additional features off and on. I don't know why somebody would do that. Honestly, it's a much better system with them, but hey, we left it in there for you. And then you have all the math for the oscillators. And so here you go, here's SMI signal anti-lag. If you are trying to control the anti-lag period on SMI signal, well, here's where you would do it. And same thing with the maximum min-max capital stage system, so you can turn things on and off. This section is so big because we have so many oscillators and so much technical analysis. So like here's KVO, same thing. Here's its anti-lag period, same thing. Here's how the actual calculations are done. Same thing with CMO. And so you can go through all these and turn off what oscillators and technical analysis you want. You can change how they're calculated. You can even see there's anti-lags on every long-term analysis, so you can change how quickly you ignore them. Let's go to the next section here. This is the minimum volume to sell override. And so one of the cool things that Bearcoin did in machineGun, and man, it is really neat, the system he put together for this behind the scenes that nobody ever gets to see. But we automatically scan and find the minimum volumes for every pair at every exchange. We put all that into Gunbot so it can just know when you pick a pair what it needs to spend, and then it can derive the capital stage and trading phase mathematics from that. But because we don't update it all the time, occasionally exchanges add new pairs. Actually, like every day, exchanges add new pairs. And so if you're trying to trade a pair that we don't have any knowledge of, we don't know what the minimum volume to sell is on that. And so you're going to need to come in here and put in whatever it is. So let's say you're at like Coinbase, right? And they generally have dollar minimums. It's not as simple as that because exchanges have multiple conditions that determine the minimum order size. So you can't just say it's $1 because they'll also have a minimum quote size, and the quote changes value. And so the minimum order size changes value. It's fairly more complex than people give it credit for. And so just to be safe, let's say it's like, quote unquote dollar minimums, let's just put in $1.25, okay? Now you can save, and all the math in machineGun can be done because it now understands that you're operating within a $1.25 market. Why do we put the 25? We want to be a little over what we think the minimum is, and so that it doesn't start sending orders that are getting rejected. So if you're not really sure and we don't have the math on it built in, go a little over. Meaning, like, say you're at Binance and you think it's going to be 5, no, go 6. That will allow you to trade anywhere. And then here's the unfortunate thing. We do not get API access to crypto.com. And so all this cool stuff we do for determining, the values of pairs before you get there so you don't have to do it, doesn't work for crypto.com. Any pair you trade on that website, you're going to need to come in here and manually set a minimum volume to sell. Maybe someday they'll give us API access and we can do all the cool automagic magic for you. But at the moment, this is what this is for. If you can also, I mean, if you just wanted to trade at a much higher minimum volume, you can come in here and dial it in here too. And that will mean that, like, let's say you put like a 10, that would mean that your highest trading phase could be 100, and so you'd spend $100 on the max, $10 on the minimum. I don't recommend you come in here and change it this way. There's better ways to do it, but it's another way that you can configure and manipulate machineGun. Going on, financial management. These are just timestamps used to tell when machineGun was started, and last time it didn't have a position. We use these to calculate the information you see in the right side menu in the trading screen. So when it's like, hey, this is the number of days you've been trading and this is how many trades you've made, this is the start and stop time positions to determine that data. And then going down, as I said at the beginning of this whole long thing, automated internals. These are settings from stepGridHybrid that we manage ourselves. We manage these every 5 seconds. It does not matter if you change these, we will immediately change these back once again every 5 seconds when the script runs. This is because these are settings that we use to make the strategy work. You cannot manipulate them. They are very important to the core of machineGun, and so that's why they're down here and it says do not change these. If you change these in code editor, or if you change these just in config.js on your own, it will immediately change them back. So that's why they're down here at the very bottom, and just you don't need to worry about them. That walks you through all of the trade settings. I know that's quite the load. That walks you through the chart. You can see how the markets haven't been favorable this entire time I've been talking to you, so there is no exciting chart to show you here. A couple things that you can do as well that I just want to point out to you guys is you can go to indicators. If you see an indicator on the right hand side and you want to know more about it, well, you can just type it in. Okay, Gunbot is amazing. They have all the indicators you could possibly imagine built in through TradingView. So you can just click this and look, now you have SMIIO on your screen. And so when you're sitting here looking at this and it's like it's not activated, it's not activated. Well, look, now you can actually just go see the technical analysis yourself and see why it's not activated. If you add all these to your screen and slowly work through them over time, you will have a great understanding of how machineGun works because you are now understanding the technical analysis. So a lot of the times when I'm staring at these screens, I also like to include MACD. I will stare at screens with these two indicators on it. I'll pull them down like this, and I will pull it down like this. And I use these two to generally give me information just so that I'm better understanding what the markets are going to do here. Is it wrong? Sure, it's basic technical analysis. You can't live by each individual thing. But look, that's why we have so many of them. That's why the buy logic chain is 30 plus conditions deep at this point in time. By the time you layer tons and tons of technical analysis like this, and you layer a lot of tricks like capital stage and trading phase and trying to get the most unit cost drop you can, well, you've got a fairly complex strategy. machineGun is sophisticated. This is 5 years of development, and what we're seeing here in the 5.3.20 build is a celebration. Like, it's an absolute celebration. I've been wanting to get these features out to you guys for a long time. Yes, there's always going to be more development. There's always going to be more tickets. Yes, I'm always working on this project 24/7. Bearcoin's always working on the project. But I have been jumping to get this stuff out to you guys. And so for Christmas, for the New Year's, just happy holidays, everybody. This has been a basic walkthrough. If you have any questions, by all means, always feel free to ask in our Telegram channel. Always feel free to contact me and ask. Rule of thumb, I will never reach out to you directly. Other teams, community developer teams, they will not reach out to you directly. The core team will not reach out to you directly. There's a lot of imposters, there's a lot of people trying to scam, and so if it looks like one of us has just started a conversation with you out of the blue, that was not us. I promise you, that was not us. We will not reach out to you. You have to reach out to us. And so if you have a question, feel free to ask me, feel free to ask the community. Please look at the technical manual on the wiki. I will be rewriting that. I know it's out of date right now. It's why I'm doing this video right here. I will jump on that shortly. And other than that, just know I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming along with this journey. Thank you so much for listening to however long of a boring recording this would be with nothing on the screen to look at. But I hope it's brought you to a better understanding of how my algorithm works and what machineGun is attempting to do and how you can customize it. It was a long haul, but there's a pretty decent walkthrough, a casual explanation of things. Once again, if you want a deeper explanation, that's what the technical manual's for, or just asking us. I will go on forever about stuff like this. I'm more than happy to engage with you guys. So check us out in the Christmas competition going on right now, the 2024 Christmas competition. It's going to run all the way through the month. All right, thanks again, everybody. I'm going to get to uploading this. I'll see you guys shortly.